Hi and welcome to an extra Three Legs Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Sean
and Dan.
Cut down team tonight, but that doesn't mean it's a cut down amount of news. It's been a bit of a day, hasn't it?
It has. I think from the time we got up this morning until just before starting this podcast, it's been a bit.
Yeah, right. Shall we start in? I might as well go through this in chronological order because it all everything seemed to happen sort of complete domino effect. First thing, the calendar came out for next year.
Yes, and we were kind of expecting this because it was about this time last year, and MotoGP put their calendar out yesterday, so it made sense.
Of course, F1 and MotoGP are meant to have this gentleman's agreement where there aren't, or clashes are kept to a minimum. It's not happened this time.
Well, that's got to be difficult when you've got 22 races on the calendar.
True, and 10 of those races clash with MotoGP ones.
Ooh.
And also, the Canadian Grand Prix clashes with Le Mans.
Yes, because the Canadian Grand Prix is a week later than usual, or 2 weeks later, I can't remember which, because Zandvoort is going in between... Is it Zandvoort? Someone is going in between Monaco, and Baku is going in between Monaco and Canada, because Zandvoort is going where Baku currently is. And Baku is back-to-back with Canada, which is almost 9,000 kilometres.
Yeah, what's it, not 8 time zones difference
like that. It's
everyone's
a
got to adjust to
crazy
within...
trip for
That's
7
not
days.
going to be easy.
No.
That's going to be teams struggling with jet
Yeah.
lag, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great plan.
And Vietnam is after Bahrain.
Yeah, third race of the season.
Race. Kind of screwed up the alphabetical order of it because it could have gone Australia, Bahrain, China, then Dutch.
It has done for a couple of years, but...
Dutch, and then España. And then put the French Grand Prix in there if you need to. And Great Britain, Hungary, Italy. Running out now. Seven back to... Yes. And Kay get the finish race at the Kimi Ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different Kimi. 7 back-to-back weekenders, 22 races, biggest F1 calendar yet. And because of this, testing has now officially been changed.
Yes.
Overall, we're losing 1 day of testing during the season between Barcelona and the post-season test in Abu Dhabi. Barcelona test next year is going to be 2 sessions of 3 days each instead of the 4 days that it's been for the last few years. But the post-season young drivers, test is now going to be 3 days on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after the last race of the season.
It seems weird that they're cutting out so much testing. They're almost getting to the point where you turn up to the circuit with a car and go, let's just hope this... turn up at Australia with your car and go, let's hope this thing turns on.
You mean McLaren, Force India...
Williams this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem strange, but I think what F1 are saying is they want to cut down on the amount of time that team members are spending away from the families.
I get that, but it seems strange to be making the end of season test longer, because at that point you're learning stuff about a car that is about to go into a shed for all eternity.
Especially this season, especially next season as well, because... All right, as we discussed with Scarbs last week, 2020 cars are going to be an evolution, really, of this year's. But for 2021, if the new rules come in, everything is going to be changed. Everything's going to be wiped clean. There isn't going to be a lot that will be carried over from 2020 to the new cars, surely. So, unless they're testing prototypes of new car parts on the current model, but... I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know what the answer is. So
No.
I'm sure F1 will tell us at some point.
Yeah. Maybe the answer would be more free practice time that can be used as testing sessions and less actual testing sessions out of race weekends.
But they've also been talking about cutting down on the amount of actual sessions during the weekend. And only having one practice on a Friday and having the Friday morning for media half day, which they now do on Thursdays. So you could be losing out on one of the 90-minute Friday sessions as well. So it's going to be turn up at every race and hope the car works.
Yeah, well, What worries me about this, about getting rid of testing, is it means that the dominant teams are going to find it easier to continue being dominant, and the ones behind are going to find it much more difficult to catch up.
Yeah, because they're going to have less opportunities. And
Yeah. And
it's-
the successful teams are the ones with the budget that have the best wind tunnels and don't have to pay someone for wind tunnel time. So, yeah, budget as well comes into it quite a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think we need to hear more about this because F1 haven't officially put those out as part of a major release yet, but this is what Auto Motor Run Sport have been confirming today, and yeah, we trust them, don't we?
Yes.
They are usually
yeah,
good. I
they're-
believe they had the F1 calendar exactly as it is yesterday, so
Yeah.
they seem to be in the know.
Yeah. Right. So the next thing that happened while we were in the middle of the supermarket was Mercedes' announcement about Bottas next year. Can I be smug here and go, called it?
You were the only one.
I know.
The rest of us were all like, nope, he's gone, he's done. But somehow he holds on.
I don't think it's the most surprising thing they could have done,
No.
but
They've done it for the last 2 years, and it's not really done much, so...
yeah, I still think looking at the points difference between when Rosberg was with the team and now Bottas is with the team, I think they could do better. Whether Ocon is that doing better or not, I don't know. But I would have thought that having someone closer to Hamilton would be in their interests.
It feels like they've got a free year as well to put Ocon in and see if he is what everyone thought he was going to be, or if he's not. Because I think we know what Bottas is. We know what he's about at this point, and is there much to learn from having him in the car for another year? Not convinced.
No, but Mark Hughes from Motorsport magazine had 3 possible scenarios for why Bottas could be a good choice for Mercedes. One is the obvious that we all think, that in 2021 they're looking at putting George Russell in the car. So they just want someone who they know will do the job to sit around and keep the seat warm for that year. Another possibility is they are aiming at getting Verstappen in the car next year. So again, it's just keeping the seat warm for a year. The other thing he suggested could be a reason for going for Bottas is if Mercedes are looking at chucking Formula One in. Because why make any big changes if you're not going to be sticking around?
Yeah, I mean they are just about to launch the Formula E team. I can see where he's coming from on that, but
I don't think there's any particular rumours of Mercedes pulling out of Formula One at the moment.
they were
They-
the ones that were around about
they've-
the end of 2007,
Yeah, they've-
2017, start 2018.
I think they, like everyone, have kind of empty threaded it if they don't like the new regulations. Just like everyone has, like, oh, we might quit.
Yeah, I mean
Which, from a business point of view, it's always an option to say, right, this isn't working for us.
you go for any business funding these days, and one of the first things they ask you is what's your exit strategy. So it's generally part of any business. But I mean, having seen the Mercedes infrastructure firsthand and being told in no uncertain terms with the amount of money that they'd spent, they weren't in any danger of pulling out soon. I think that's the most unlikely of them.
Yeah.
The George Russell one, we know Mercedes' thoughts on George Russell.
He's one of their junior drivers. He seems quite quick. They've brought him into F1 for a reason.
Yeah, I mean he won GP3 then F2 in consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
So they're obviously backing him to the hilt.
I mean, they did that with Verline and Ocon, though.
True.
They rushed Verline into F1 after he won DTM. They brought Ocon in after he won GP3.
I think it was.
Yeah, and neither of them have ended up in the car.
And I
But
think
speaking of Ocon,
but they
Get
have
to
given
that in a minute.
they have given George Russell a harder task.
This is true.
Because I think this year's Williams
I
is...
don't know. They gave Verline a manor.
No, that's true. Actually, they gave it to Ocon as well, didn't they?
Yep.
yeah.
They really like putting their young drivers through the ringer. But yeah, speaking of Ocon, multiple years at Renault.
Not a year-long loan, which I think is what was highly rumoured in advance.
Yeah, I mean, Toto Wolff was saying he'd let him go out on loan to another team if they didn't have a seat for him. It was blatantly obvious that they didn't have another seat for him. But then again, is it a multiple-year loan because George Russell is still a Williams driver and he's on a 3-year contract at Williams, which we all thought was 2, but he's been talking about 3-year deals for the last week or so. So, could we see Mercedes deciding Ocon's future season by season?
Possibly, or maybe like Sainz, after he's been at the team for a while, he'll say, guys, I'm obviously not a Mercedes driver anymore. Can I just go my own way?
Yeah, I mean, it worked well for Carlos Sainz, leaving Renault. And his Red Bull loan deal, and
Yeah.
Goes to McLaren, has a different design on his helmet, different sponsors, hot chocolate.
Yeah,
And
important.
Yeah, very, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
And now, he's come out of it. He's come out of it okay. One of the drivers to survive the Red Bull meat grinder. Could Ocon go the same way? I mean, one thing that he was saying today was he grew up with as a part of the Enstone family because he was a test driver for Lotus.
Yeah.
Renault backed him through his junior career, which he was one of the big up-and-coming French drivers, obviously. So, if any team's going to put money into him, then you'd expect it to be them. And I think at one point he sort of likened it to going home again. But that leaves Hülkenberg.
Yeah. Not too happy sounding on the social media.
It was a bit emo, wasn't it?
Do you want me to find it?
Yeah,
Talk amongst yourselves and I'll find it.
He posted a black and white photo of himself looking moody, which is never a good start. And what was it? He was going on about factors other than talent are involved in picking Formula One drivers.
Which is true, and everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right.
there's money and nationality that comes into it, and Ocon's French and Renault are French.
And there's age and things like that, and your strategy as a team.
So, it's a pity that the journey with Renault will end after the season, especially as we haven't been able to reach our goals yet. We had hoped to take another step forward this season, but unfortunately we haven't managed that so far. It's well known that the choice of drivers is not only about performance, it's a whole bundle of factors, but that's the way it is. Surely we would have all liked to see it differently, but nevertheless I will keep my focus and try to reach the maximum success for our team in the remaining races. With regard to 2020, I'm confident to find a good solution, but there's nothing to announce at the moment. So there we go.
You do not have just mixed in the sad Fernando music behind that.
We've not had it for a little while. Why not?
Yeah, sad Hulk. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he could be going to Haas.
I think Gunter Steiner has said that, or in an interview, was it yesterday, said that they were looking at, for Romain Grosjean's seat, they were looking at Grosjean, they were looking at Ocon, and they were looking at Hülkenberg.
He reiterated this in the press conference today as well.
Well, he's probably not going to get Ocon at this point.
Probably not.
Doubtful. Unless he goes for a new engine.
It's
supply.
going to have to
But
be
then again,
hell
you
of
need
an
a whole new
offer, isn't
car.
it? at this
Unless we're doing a jump cut tomorrow.
Oh, God.
Hashtag Friday news. We've never done one show on a Friday before. Have we? Yeah, so is it a two-way French off? God, that sounds wrong.
No, because Ocon's gone to Renault.
Yes, it is. Sorry. So is it a two-way scrap between Grosjean and Hulk now?
That seems pretty much what I think. I can't remember who it was who asked Gunter Steiner about it at the press conference, but he pretty much said there's nobody else who's going to be out of contract at the end of the year that's going to come with more experience than Grosjean or Hülkenberg.
So that rules out a return for Pascal Wehrlein, because at one point he was being linked with the seat through his Ferrari connections.
Yes.
Well, I think a few weeks ago Steiner said that they weren't looking at getting a rookie. And
I mean, Wehrlein wouldn't be a
Wehrlein
rookie.
isn't strictly a rookie. He's had 2 seasons in Formula One, but then he's had a year out, hasn't he?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think... but then again, so's Ocon. And they were looking at him after a year out.
I suppose so, yeah. He's had half a season less than than Verline, hasn't he?
Yeah, because he came in mid-season to replace Haryanto when everyone found out that Haryanto was A, useless, and B, skint.
He did do very well in his first year with Force India, as they were then, and has still been involved a lot with Mercedes in their simulator, so he's not...
Ocon, not Haryanto.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
What is Haryanto doing these days?
He's. I looked this up a while back and I can't actually remember the answer, but he's in some shitty series somewhere in.
Is it, I want to say Super GT.
I don't think it's Super GT. I think it's Super GT.
Adequate GT?
No, it's. I think it's like. I think it's like GT Asia or something along this neck of the woods. It's possibly a feeder series for Porsche Super Cup or something of that neck of the woods. It's
So he's
something
not even driving?
Good.
Jesus, right, that's him sunk. How do we think Ocon will do at Renault? Obviously, he's going in as number 2 driver.
It will be interesting to see that relationship, because was there not something a while back where Ocon barely even got in Ricciardo's way, and Ricciardo had some very un-Ricciardo-ish rant on the radio about how he doesn't like that kid's face?
Yeah, there was something towards the end of last season, wasn't there?
That does ring a bell, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sort of un-Danny Rickish tone to take. So we'll be,
Yeah, that could be one to
intriguing
watch
to see
out
how
for.
that goes.
Unless, of course, Danny Rick's on his way out. Don't forget, Ferrari and Red Bull haven't announced what they're doing.
No, that was part of Renault's announcement today, was they announced their lineup. The headline was Ocon is in it, but they did also confirm also Ricciardo. I mean, is he going in as a number 2 driver? I mean, we assumed that with Force India, and he didn't exactly stick to that script, did he?
I think any driver is going to try and prove themselves against their teammate, whether they're hired as a number 2 or not. And I don't think there's all that many teams on the grid who actually hire people to be a number 2 driver.
Yeah.
No.
They might turn them into them mid-season because one is clearly doing better than the other. But there's only Ferrari at some points in their history, really, that have said, you're number 1, you're number 2.
Yeah.
So, I don't think he's quite Danny Rick's calibre, but I don't think he's terrible, so I'd expect to see him sometimes beating him, sometimes a place or 2 behind.
The thing is that Renault have got to get sorted out, though. They need a car good enough to actually be able to be in the position where they can number 1 and number 2 drivers.
That would help.
Just by dint of being able to get the car to the finish and in the top 10.
They've only had one, or half a wonky year. Last year they were doing all right. Year before that they were doing all right.
Yeah, what was it? They went from 5th in 2017 to 4th in 2018.
Yeah. This year they're disappointing, but that doesn't mean that next year's a write-off.
Yeah, you've just got to hope that they can actually build a decent car, because I still don't think they fully know how it works. And I don't know, draw a line under this year and try and forget the struggles, which may work, especially if there's new blood coming into the team.
Yeah. Worked for McLaren.
That is true,
Yeah.
actually. That is very true. Right, next on here, the announcement that didn't happen. We think that Racing Point were all geared up to announce that Perez had signed a multi-year extension.
Yeah, this has been rumoured for a little while now as well, hasn't it? That Perez is going to put his mark down on this long-term, tying him to...
Team Hortons.
Yes, that's the one. Sorry, I'm scrolling and talking at the same time. I've lost my train of thought entirely.
That's all right. So yeah, it looked like they were all geared up to make this announcement, and then Mercedes dropped the Bottas confirmation, and Racing Point come out with a tweet of...
Yeah, so 13 minutes after the Bottas announcement, Racing Point tweeted, "Sees announcement, deletes content plan for day," with a gif of Homer Simpson merging backwards into a hedge.
Do we think that's going to happen tomorrow?
Well, they then tweeted, when would this be? 2 minutes after the Ocon announcement, they retweeted that tweet and put a little pointy arrow towards it. So I suspect, Perez was in the press conference today.
And it was awkward.
And
it was so awkward.
Obviously had been lined up to talk about his new contract, and it didn't happen, and Yeah,
the first question he got asked, are we going to see you signing a deal? I'm working on my
Clearly
future.
already signed it, but I'm not allowed to tell you.
So yeah, that's going to be Friday news, but we're not going to do a jump cut for that. We're just going to take it as read that it's already happened, unless it doesn't and something completely blindsides us.
God knows. It feels like it's going to be one of those weekends.
Yeah, we're not doing another show until Monday.
But we are confident that Perez has re-signed, or is there any chance that's not what the Racing Point news would have been?
I can't imagine that
I think
there's any other outcome.
Yeah,
There's several rumours flying around and stories in the less reputable press that he has re-signed.
You mean the Daily Mail and the Express?
You may think that. I could not possibly comment.
Thank you, Francis Urquhart.
I mean, they have also retweeted a thing by team sponsor JCB today, who've done a special pink liveried JCB, but I don't think that's what they'd be too concerned about.
Nah, and JCB isn't one of Perez's sponsors.
It's not.
He comes with Lawrence Stroll.
Yes. They have also as well tweeted since a picture of Perez kind of with his hand in front of his mouth, looking a bit sheepish from the press conference, with the caption this and a monkey emoji.
So it does look like
it's coming.
Yeah, Force India, Racing Point. That's another fibre in the swear jar. Racing Point will be staying as they are for next year. What do we think? Good move, bad move, meh move?
Difficult.
I think it's a sensible move from their point, but a bit boring, isn't it?
I mean, they were never going to get rid of Stroll, obviously.
Stroll's got that seat as long as his dad's got his name over the door.
And as long as Ferrari and Mercedes aren't knocking on his door.
So Stroll's got that seat as long as his dad's name's over the door.
Yeah. I mean, Perez, I think, is still the stronger of the two, although I think Stroll has more points because of his weirdy result in Germany. But I think Perez has done the role nicely of be the more senior, but don't outshine the owner's son too much.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a difficult position, isn't he? Because if he does too well against Stroll, then...
Slow down and let Lance win.
No, I honestly don't think anyone in that team will criticise him if he does well in races and if Stroll doesn't.
I mean, the good thing about them having Perez there is effectively they don't have to pay him, because the amount of sponsorship he brings in, I think it's up to $15 million a year now.
Jesus.
So just by dint of him being there, he's making a profit for the team. And
you see it, don't you, when they go to the Mexican Grand Prix, how many billboards he's on and how just huge his
how
presence
many
is
different
in that
things
market.
he's advertising when they always show the video of the drive from the hotel to the circuit. And you know, he's got some decent quality backers, and he is a good driver.
Yeah.
The car hasn't been great for him this year, but that's because they couldn't afford to start developing it until, well, this time last year.
Yeah.
I think they've got a new nose for Belgium, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got rid of the nostrils for the first time since, God, when was it they brought them in? Belgium 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
In fact, I think it was 3 years ago, because they weren't even there was still the beige team when they brought those in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's radically changed front end, which now looks like everyone else's. So radical, it's the same. But I mean, we've always seen historically Force India have got stronger in the second part of the season. Obviously, things couldn't last year because the transition from Force India to Racing Point, the money struggles that they were in, and couldn't afford to get the parts made, even though the upgrades had been designed.
Well, they had a very good Belgium last year.
They actually took us by surprise.
Yeah.
Well, points on the debut, wasn't it?
Technically, yes. Yeah.
And yeah, I think we'll see more from them this year. The only question mark I still think that's hanging over their heads is, when are they going to teach Stroll how to get one lap pace?
Yeah, because he is shocking.
We've seen how well he can race, because he's got points, and even though he's only got out of Q1 once this season, but he's still managed to find himself in the top 10. Mm-hmm. If he can start I mean,
It'd save him a lot of effort, wouldn't he, if he could start like 10th rather than having to overtake 7 or 8 cars to get there.
You know, he's starting in 17th and finishing 8th. If he can start 10th, 7th might not be out of the equation, or something in the top 6 if one of the big 3 teams, as a mayor, drops out, rehires Gasly.
I think one thing as well we've seen with Racing Point this year is they do seem quite happy to try a slightly out there strategy and see how that goes. That's how Stroll ended up with quite a strong finish in Australia, and how he ended up leading in Germany for a little while, because they just were like, oh, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? So,
serious question, has Ruth Buscombe started working for him?
not that I know of. I think she's still...
Well,
we still see her with Sauber.
I think Ruth Buscombe's strategies were only out there when it was Sauber and they were at the back, because you weren't going to manage anything if you were doing the same strategy as everyone else from the back.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe Williams could have hired her for this season. Right, what have we got next?
Shall we run through the teams and see who we know is staying next year, and
Yes, this seems like a good idea.
and who are still unknowns?
That is a good idea.
Yes, because that was another thing that came out in the press conference today. There's been a little bit of uncertainty over Kevin Magnussen's contract situation. It was sort of reported that he had one for next year, but no one quite seemed to know, so Steiner was asked about it and said, yes, he is under contract.
Doesn't mean he can't be sacked.
Oh, it doesn't mean he can't be sacked. It doesn't mean someone can't buy him out of his contract, but he has a piece of paper.
Yeah, I believe that to the extent I've actually highlighted him in bold on the 2020 page.
Good Lord.
So, right, McLaren were first to break,
Yes.
Yes.
and nothing's changing. Lando and Carlos signed up for another year.
I want to say technically Ferrari would have been first to break in that they already had 2 drivers under contract for 2020.
They've not actually announced anything.
They've not, but they are under contract for 2020.
I mean, they are crap at announcing things, but
Yes.
they are good at showing pictures of drivers putting their helmets on.
Did they say that Charles Leclerc had a 2-year deal
Yeah.
last year?
Yes.
Right, so yes, they do have two drivers under contract. There's rumours about Vettel's happiness and whether he'll still be there, but for now we've got to assume that it's going to be Vettel and Leclerc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Mercedes already sorted Hamilton and Bottas.
So no change.
Red Bull. Max Verstappen has a deal next year
Yes.
and now can't use his get-out clause because
Because he's too good.
it was widely believed that he had to be outside the top 3 at the summer break for him to be able to get it.
Which is practically in the top 2.
Yeah, he's closing in on second at an alarming rate.
Conspiracy theory. Gasly has been deliberately shit so that he doesn't take points off his teammate, so that his teammate is in the top 3.
No, I think he's just driven
Or he
that car
might
like
just-
he's never driven a
yeah.
car before.
It might just be shit.
In a bad way. Teammate.
Well,
Well,
Even
Bruno's-
even
yeah.
Bruno's
Yeah.
got something to say about that.
probably going to be one of Albon, Gasly, Kvyat.
Yeah.
Wilder rumours, Hulkenberg.
Yeah. Available. we
Even
know.
wilder rumours, Vettel's been mentioned a couple of times today, not
Yeah.
just between us.
I mean, they have taken back a former driver before now, haven't they? So
Toro Rosso is made up of former drivers.
this is true.
I mean, yeah, Albon, ex-Red Bull program,
Hartley.
Hartley,
Kvyat.
Kvyat.
There's a few of them.
You know, just because they get rid of you once doesn't necessarily mean. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've gone for, on our predictions, I've gone for Albon
Right.
because I think he'll do well enough for the second part of the season to claim the seat. Sean,
I still think he's there for data gathering purposes because they already know about Kvyat, so that they wouldn't really learn much by putting him in the car. But Albon is the unknown quantity, so I still think Kvyat could have the edge.
I'm not entirely sure. They know about Kvyat driving against Ricciardo in a car from 2 years ago.
Yes.
They don't know about him in a Red Bull today.
But they know about Ricciardo versus Verstappen, and they know about Ricciardo versus Kvyat, so they've probably got a vague idea.
Oh, they'll have a vague idea, yeah.
But yeah, Albon is the more lesser known, if that makes sense, and it's not an entirely confusing pile of words.
Well, the thing is, the 2019 Kvyat is a different beast to the any previous version of him.
He's been completely broken and rebuilt.
Yeah, he's a lot more measured these days. He actually watches where he's driving rather than up the back of someone.
Yeah, I mean, he went wheel to wheel with Albon, 3 or 4 times in Hungary, and neither of them ended up in a wall.
I mean, he's been battling Gasly this season.
Yeah.
Didn't wipe him out, which probably wouldn't have done his future employment prospects any good. Or Gasly's for that matter. It's a tough one to call. I'm still on the side of Albon keeping his seat. Kvyat, I still think will be in Toro Rosso, but oh no, I don't. I've got.
Where the fuck have you put Kvyat?
I haven't.
Interesting. I want to say, did none of us have Kvyat in Toro Rosso next year?
I had him.
I've got him in Red Bull.
I think I put him in Haas.
Someone put him in Haas. That rings a bell.
Because I do think he'll be on the grid next year. I think
Yeah.
he's done easily enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure he'll stay within the Red Bull program. But that's wild speculation, and we're trying to deal with some facts here.
So moving on, the next team on this list here is Renault, and that is now confirmed.
Yep.
Danny Rick and Esteban Ocon.
Indeed.
Right, Haas, Kevin Magnussen and TBA.
Yes.
As we've discussed, it could
Yeah.
be...
We know roughly who's in the running.
It's pretty much one or two, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Hulkenberg or Grosjean. I would take Hulkenberg of the two.
I think so, yeah. He's less likely to
Still
run
not
up
showing
your
your prediction
repair
from Kvyat, because that's the one that you sent.
I know.
Racing Point, Lance Stroll, and who will the second driver be?
Technically, neither are under contract.
So was Lance Stroll only there on a one-year deal?
I guess he must have been.
Oh no, it's he doesn't have a contract. It's take your son to work millennium. It's going to be Perez.
Is it? Yeah, we know who
Nailed
that's
on.
going to be.
Toro Rosso.
The two that Red Bull don't want.
That is, yeah, the two that Red Bull don't want, or Yuri Vips, or Patricia O'Ward, or Sean. You've gone for Nick De Vries.
Who is the only one of those 3 names you've mentioned that has a vague chance of qualifying for a super license?
Yes, because my other one that's got a chance of... Yuri Vips has already got the point. Will have the points for it if he wins F3.
I don't think F3 gives you 40 anymore, does it? I think
No,
it gives
but
you
he's
not
got...
enough.
he won one of the Renault ones that gives him 10, and F3 gives you 30, I think. He will have... If he wins F3, he will have the points.
Fair enough.
I did look this...
I will trust your maths on that.
I did look this up before I put it down, and Autosport agreed with me as well, because they put that in this week. Right, Alfa Romeo. Kimi is signed for next year already. That was a 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Although Chris seems to be still convinced it'll go to Ferrari when Vettel retires.
And is convinced that Vettel will retire.
Yes. Yeah. Kimi's there. Second car.
Is this the one that we think Ferrari have some kind of deal that they can place someone there if they have someone available?
Yes, because Kimi isn't the chosen Ferrari driver.
He have negotiated that deal all by himself, I believe, completely independently of Ferrari.
So if Ferrari have a driver, this is where we could see Wehrlein.
Yes.
Not impossible.
Could see Hartley, technically.
He's got the experience. WEC season kicks off this weekend at Silverstone, by the way. Toyota's going to win again.
Yay. Actually, they didn't in Silverstone last year. They damaged their floor for riding the curbs and got disqualified.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still going to be... the whole season is still going to be a walkover for the world's fastest Prius. Second car. Ferrari have the choice of the seat, and then if they don't get one...
If you were Ferrari, would you put Giovinazzi in there?
And what else are you going to do with him?
That's the thing. It's taking Mick Schumacher out of the equation because he
needs another year.
He will only get the super license points if he gets a top 4 finish in F2, and that is not looking likely in the slightest.
Even if he does happen to have the points for whatever reason, I think it's too soon for him.
So you've got Giovinazzi or you got Verline. Which one would you rather put in?
To be honest, I think I'd go for Verline.
Giovinazzi hasn't really done much, has he?
Scored a point and got a haircut. Haircuts are cool these days. I've had one recently.
Yeah.
Been my last one for another 5 years.
But yeah, I don't think Giovinazzi's done enough to prove he should be in that seat.
Unless, and we're veering away from what the lineup's going to be, they do have a reserve driver that just happens to be in Belgium
this
this week.
brings us back to the news, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because, we heard this morning that Marcus Ericsson will not be doing IndyCar this weekend because he was summoned to Belgium.
Kimi apparently has a leg injury, which, in his words, he got doing sports because sports are dangerous, should stick to drinking, worst that can happen's a hangover.
You can
I
fall
want Kimi
over
as
while
Ferrari's
drunk.
press officer when he retires from racing.
Yes.
So there's nothing to say that Ericsson might not be back next year.
It's not impossible.
If Ferrari decide not to use one of their existing drivers.
I mean, they've pulled him out of a series quite late in the year in the IndyCar series.
Penultimate race.
Yeah. A team, he drives for a team that have just got a huge new investor who may or may not be wanting to change their driver lineup, and they've, on a whim, because one of their drivers is a little bit banged up, pulled him out of that. So if he loses his drive, because Connor Daly, who's taking his seat, is quite good, it's a bit of a dick move on their part if they don't have something for him.
Connor Daly, who will be driving for his third IndyCar team of the year.
He's pretty much the go-to, isn't he? For, shit, someone didn't turn up. Who's about?
It's either going to be him or Serge Karam.
Yeah.
Because Connor Daly's already driven for Team Chilton. I mean, Carlin.
Yeah.
And Andretti.
I was Andretti the other one.
He drove for Andretti in the Indy 500. He's driving for Andretti at Laguna Seca as well.
Ah.
Didn't know that until this morning.
No, there you go.
So yeah, the second Alpha seat, pick one of realistically 3, although the Mick Schumacher fan brigade still want to say 4. You never know, you could see Callum Islet in there if he has this sudden charge through the F2 field. No, that's not going to
I
happen.
feel it's unlikely. Same for, who's the other one? Juan Manuel Correa is the other one that's been doing some testing with Sauber.
Him and Tatiana Calderon were testing a 2013...
Something like that, yeah.
2013 Sauber at Ferrari's test track.
I wonder how Alfa Romeo got access to that.
I thought teams were very protective over their testing. And then that leaves Williams. George Russell, multi-year deal.
Yeah.
First year of a 3-year deal, apparently. Second car. Kubica's there at the moment. He's making very non-committal noises about his future, and I'm concentrating on now. He's done.
I would be very surprised if they re-signed him for next year. He's not done enough to be in that seat, however much money he brings.
I think however much money he brings, I imagine Nicholas Latifi can get pretty close. Who's their reserve driver at the minute.
Who will be driving the car in FP1 tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, very good.
So
it'll be interesting to watch his times and compare them to Kubica's.
Yeah.
And assuming he wins F2, it's going to be him or De Vries wins F2. They're going to need a seat somewhere because they won't be able to stay.
And I think Williams is the ideal one for him. He's already the test driver, even though his dad owns 10% of McLaren.
Is it 20? I thought it was 20. I could be wrong.
A
chunk.
percentage of McLaren, which is still worth an absolute fuckload. I still think we'll see Latifi in a Williams, hopefully a better Williams than this year. And just just to clarify my thoughts on the Kubica thing, because every time his name gets mentioned, Lee usually goes off on one for at least half an hour. I don't think his lack of pace has got anything to do with his hand. I think his lack of pace has got a lot to do with the fact that he's just not driven machinery that fast since 2011, and he's just been out of it too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree, because if you think about the classic era of Formula One, think about Senna. Something like 300 gear changes going round Monaco. Your hand isn't on the steering wheel all that much when you're doing that many gear changes.
Yeah.
Obviously, nowadays you got flappy paddles, so it's a bit different. But
you're still altering. You're still taking your hand off the wheel and altering dials, and you drive with one hand a little bit less than you used to when it was a manual gearbox. But it's still, the cars are still designed to be driven with one hand, with another hand controlling whatever settings are on the wheel, because I think on an F1 steering wheel these days there's anything up to 20 different controls.
Something like that, yeah.
I remember when the F-duct was a thing, Ferrari used theirs by, like, Alonso had, like, a pad on the back of his hand, didn't he? And he would, like...
Yeah, he had to put his hand over a tube in the car. I think
Yeah.
McLaren had, it was
Knee?
the left knee.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because I was watching something, actually. Autosport did a video. No, sorry, it was F1 did a video of the... what was it? Something like the cheekiest upgrade attempt ever. Obviously, the winner was the Brabham fan car.
Yeah.
As you'd expect. But yeah, the F-duct, and there was James Allen interviewing Luca de Montezemolo about, if he's got one hand over the F-duct and he's altering the engine settings with the other, what's steering? Is it his knees? And the car is being steered. What with? The car is being steered.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I don't think he's struggling to control the car with one hand that's only got 20% of the movement or is it 20 or 30% of the movement that he had in before. I think he is just not fast enough.
Just rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we see that, don't we, as well, with drivers that win F2 and then have to go and do something else for a year because the seat isn't there for them. Like Van Dorn, Jolyon Palmer was another one who disappeared for a couple of years and came back. I guess maybe you could argue that about Gasly.
When Alonso came back after his year as Renault test driver, he's still alright. He was quick, but he still wasn't as quick as he could have been because he'd just been used to testing and not actually racing. And the decisions that you're having to make when you're doing a testing session as compared to doing a racing session are completely different, as every driver has said. I'm quoting other quotes here, and yeah, I think it's just I think it's a case of the longer you spend away from doing something, the worse you are when you get back to it. Dan, we both play guitar.
Yep.
Take 6 years off playing guitar and then start again.
You're coming in.
You're gonna
not at ground zero, but
you're going to sound a bit bag of spanners.
yeah, it takes time to get back to anywhere close to where you were.
Yeah, and I think that's just been the case with Kubica, and
Of course, he's not coming back to exactly the same car. It's evolved every year since then.
And things like fitness levels, he's not as young as he was when he came in the first time. So the gym sessions aren't going to be doing the same thing as they did the first time round.
So yeah, I think it's just a case of age and time away that's done it, and it's nothing to do with his accident in his hand.
I'm really glad he got the chance. I'm upset that he wasn't able to do anything with it.
Yep, still think the movie ends with the visor coming down and the lights going on in Australia.
Yeah.
That is the ideal time to finish it.
Until an appeal is heard, he still has a point.
Some may say shenanigans, but
Yeah.
when is the Alpha appeal? Is it middle of September?
I think it's after the Italian Grand Prix.
So only about 10 days.
Yeah, I think it's the week after that. I think it's like the Tuesday or the Wednesday after that.
Because of course we are on back-to-backs. Right, that just leaves the last thing on here, which we've already talked about, which says Haas and Steiner's interest in K-Mag.
Yeah. Well, his interest in K-Mag has contract.
That is true. No, his interest in Hulk. I do apologise.
One thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about Hulk and K-Mag and Haas is their relationship.
I think... I mean, that has been... K-Mag has been making sort of conciliatory noises towards Hulk recently about everyone on the grid's actually really good, and sometimes you say things in the heat of the moment.
Like,
Yeah, I
suck
think
my
the-
balls, honey.
There was one incident, wasn't there?
It was an incident that inspired some flags and posters and banners
Yes.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was one thing and possibly got blown out of proportion as people on the internet tend to do to
Yep.
things.
But it's the kind of thing, if you're going to say it on live TV in front of a global audience, is going to get blown the fuck out of proportion.
But I mean, this was in response to Hulkenberg calling him the dirtiest driver on the grid, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're good friends.
Yeah, something tells me that if it is K-Mag and Hulk in the team next year, Gunther Steiner will point out on the first day back after the winter break where the naughty step is and the fact that he doesn't expect either driver to be seen sat on there, otherwise there will be trouble.
Sounds sensible.
Would you want to get the full naughty step treatment from Steiner?
Christ, no.
Stick to looking like a rock star. Right, that is about everything that's happened today.
For now.
For
We've
now.
not missed anything in the last half hour or so.
What are we on? 9 o'clock. Oh God, hang on. There's tweets.
Is it tweets about the fact that we're doing a bonus podcast?
Mostly yes,
We-
actually.
We haven't mentioned that the whole Rich Energy Part 2 thing is...
That was, yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
that kind of happened just before we started recording. Formula Money tweeted that they tweeted copies of the documents from Companies House in the UK that William Storey, the original Rich Energy hair and beard guy, has now bought Lightning Volt back, which is the company that Rich Energy Limited changed to when all the shit went down in Season 1, and is now director of them again. So it looks like we could have Rich Energy the sequel.
Yeah.
Just when you thought it was safe to go into your local drink shop, you probably still won't see any. What do we reckon? Things going to kick off again this weekend?
I don't know. I assume if he's bought back in, that means someone's backed him and he's obviously got some support coming from somewhere. I think possibly one to kind of let it play out, see where it goes.
we'll keep an eye on this because if it turns out that there's another shitstorm of tweets over the weekend, we'll be
I'm sure we'll notice.
yeah, we'll be taking a look at that. But yeah, if you want to get the details on that, have a look at Formula Money on Twitter, which you will find at Formula Money.
And I think there was...
Does what it says on the tin.
I think there was a bit of not exactly news this morning about Haas and Rich Energy saying that they would be clarifying what the position was with the Rich Energy sponsorship at some point soon. I'm just trying to find those tweets, but obviously quite a lot's happened today.
you can see how today's gone, that we've actually managed to put this together completely on the fly. I mean, technically, we should be sat in the pub doing the quiz about now.
So yeah, the directors of that company now are the same two that were directors of it before all the change happened about a month or so back.
So, plus ça change. Right, seeing as we're having a bonus podcast...
Before the Singapore Grand Prix, Haas expect a final decision on the future of title sponsor Rich Energy. That's
That
a story
sounds-
on Motorsport.
Ah,
That
right.
sounds plausible.
Yeah, we trust them. Since we're doing a bonus podcast, you two fancy a bonus total shunt?
Do we have any say in the matter?
Well, you can say no.
When were you born?
I'll still do it. I'll still do it anyway.
Go
Right,
on.
I am going through the ones that have been sent, and I'm gonna go for this one from. Let's have a look. Kent, England.
Kent, England. Is that the person's name?
Or where the tweet's from?
Hi,
Or
I'm
where the
Kent,
email's from.
England.
It's his name on email.
Cool. Strong name.
Kent, England, from the US.
Ah,
Brilliant.
I was born.
Good.
Correct start.
In 1936.
Okay.
Right.
Going back a little bit.
I was born in New Zealand. My father was a World War I hero, and recipient of the Victoria Cross.
So we're looking in the Brabham kind of age?
Possibly.
And my first Formula One season was 1965. And I will need a guess.
I have no advance on Brabham.
Let's guess at Brabham
We'll
then.
go for some Brabham.
Going for Jack Brabham for your first one. Okay. I was the first F1 champion to pass away of natural causes. However, this was under unusual circumstances.
Oh, no. Hang on. Their first season was 1965.
Yes.
I'm going to wait and see where this goes, but I would contest that. But because Mick Hawthorne died in not that long after he won his F1 title of like some weird degenerative organ disease. I can't remember exactly what.
Next clue. I raced for 2 teams over the course of my F1 career.
That doesn't necessarily
I
advance
have
as
no
any.
advance on either Brabham or Hawthorne.
Okay. And I was a friend and teammate of Bruce McLaren. That was the chair, by the way. That wasn't me. And I will need a guess.
Could this be a Phil Hill?
I have no idea, I'm afraid. My knowledge of 60s Formula One is...
Yeah, I'm a bit generally...
Yeah.
Phil... Is Phil... Right, I always get confused with Phil Hill. Is he Kiwi or is he American?
I thought he was American.
Right, scratch that. Yeah, I think...
I am just pointing out that Sean would have got this at least 5 clues ago.
Yeah, well...
If not
Last
before the
time I
first
did
one.
a total shunt against Sean, I beat him. So.
That is true, actually. That is true. I think that was the last time Sean did a total shunt as well. But I will need an answer unless you want to bin the guess.
Do you have any kind of advance or any?
No.
Yeah.
Brabham or Hawthorne?
Yeah, we'll just kind of Hawthorne was champion in 58, so he would have debuted before 65. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was dead by 65.
Right.
It's very easy to go for a guess for someone you know it wasn't.
Yeah.
You're ruling every driver out one by one.
Yes. Shall we just, proceed?
Proceed with 7. I was part of both of Brabham's Constructors' Championships.
I feel like Brabham is too obvious.
Though it could be something to throw us off there.
Mm.
I'm saying nothing.
Shall we stick with Brabham?
Yeah.
Okay. I competed in the Indy 500 4 times, but never finished better than 4th.
I'm not up on
No.
any kind of Brabham indie record. In fact, from that kind of era, the only people I probably know about are ones who finished better than 4th. Which is non-helpful.
Jim Clark is the only one I could think of.
Graham
He won
Hill.
it. Graham
won
Hill,
it.
yeah. Carry on.
Yes.
Okay. I competed at the 24 Hours of Le Mans 3 times, including a class win in 1961. That means he won his class, wasn't it?
it's
won
class
Well,
win.
It might have been a class win.
Class win.
Unless you're telling us it wasn't.
I'm just reading what it says on here. Bearing in mind, like I say, I think this guy's from the US because he's got an American phone number on his email signature. I don't think it's a class win, as they'd say over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still struggling a bit.
None of these clues are narrowing it down for
I
me.
feel like I'm getting further away.
And question 10. There is a spaffer after
Good,
this one.
we're going to need it.
Should you need?
I've got to tell you now, we're going to need it.
Question 10, the non-spaffer. I was part of the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans finish line debacle.
Are you familiar with that debacle?
I am not
I
familiar
am not
with
familiar with that debacle.
any Le Mans debacle.
I know of a Mick Hawthorne-based Le Mans debacle, but that's why they don't race in Switzerland still.
Do you want the spaffer?
Yes.
Which apparently, according to Lee's rules, now means you've conceded defeat, doesn't it? Because
Yeah, but
half points for the spaffer.
I think any rule that is according to Lee is questionable at best.
that is true. So, half a point for the spaffer.
Mm-hmm.
This is monumentally easy, and if you don't get it from this...
Well, I know that at least half of our listeners have already got the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're smart people. Especially the Patreons.
Yeah, they're the smartest of people.
Definitely. Spaffer. Mine and Bruce McLaren's success in the American Can-Am series was referred to as the Bruce and Denny Show.
Oh, okay, so this will be Denny Hume.
It will.
Good.
Thank you for that one,
Fucking
Kent.
hell, I was about
Yeah.
the only person from that era we didn't mention along the way.
We were nowhere near that until the end.
Yeah, bit of a bonus shunt. If you want to send one in for the normal Monday shows, then drop Lee a PM on Twitter at a total shunt. Or if you want to top the reserve pile up for shows when Lee's not around or emergency ones like this,
Or if you're just scared of Lee having your contact details.
always a threat. Send it to 3legsportwheels@gmail.com. In the meantime, tweet us at 3legsportwheels or
At Sean Cowper.
All right, Dan Dankleton.
at Pablo100. Chris is at Flood21. Lee is at Total Shunt. Get us on Instagram at 3legsportwheels and the same on Facebook. And just to plug the Patreon show, extra show that we do every Monday usually before, sometimes after the main pod, containing crap, tangents, and usually something cool, usually a cool track at the end of the show.
Usually a track at the end of the show.
I pick them, they're cool. You can get that by going to patreon.com/3legs4wheels. Right, we'll do another show on Monday unless everything else goes to shit over the next couple of days and we get more bizarre news. We'll just leave the podcast gear set up here.
Sounds
I
sensible.
doubt that because the cats will get at it.
That is a fair point, but... and also, don't forget, I'll be doing the live qualifying blog on Saturday, and Dan, you'll be here for the race.
Race blogging, yep.
Sean, you'll
I'll
also
be
be here
here
for the
'cause I
race
live
because
here.
you live here, and Chris will be joining us as well. So, got 3legsportwheels.com. Join in with the chat on the live race blog.
I just want to correct because I double checked. Hawthorne was terminally ill, but he died in a crash.
Nice morbid way to finish.
Yeah, cheery.
Right. On that note, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.